Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm Hopper, and today I'm going to talk to you about why I am not on the Appalachian Trail. So on March 12th, I went back out on the trail after a few days of rest for some foot issues. I had already tried new insoles, new shoes. I was trying another new insole, working on some different stretches, and it did not work. So if you watch my last couple videos, you'll see what happened. But the short of it is the pain in my feet was so bad I could barely walk, and I realized that there's something wrong and I was not going to be able to continue. So I came home, flew home to Maine March 15th, and the next day I had a doctor's appointment. So my family care doc got me in really quick, which is amazing, and basically said you need to go see a podiatrist. And so he called and he got me into the podiatrist the next week, which is extremely fast. So I'm very, very happy. They did x-rays before I went to the podiatrist and found a couple things. So number one, no breaks, no fractures, which is fantastic. On the flip side, did find some things that I've been dealing with apparently for a long time and never knew about. So I have, it's called os trigonum, which is little extra bones that some people have in the back of their heels. And if things are rubbing, that can cause some problems. My big toes don't bend properly, which again, this is all news to me, but you know, for almost 23 years, I wore combat boots in the military. I had different support structure. And while I had bouts of plantar fasciitis before, and I've had toe pain, I've never really, I never really knew why. But anyway, so some of these issues have continued to progress and get worse. There's also at least what the tendon we're believing it is right now. I had an MRI and I'm waiting on the final results from that, but there's a tendon called the flexor hallucis longus, which basically comes to the back of your calf. It comes down, goes kind of on the inside of your ankle. This is, like, I'm not a doctor, so just bear with me here. It comes down under your foot and it connects somewhere behind your big toe. And I was having pain from right behind my big toe all the way up. And then in some of my videos when I was talking about just unbearable shooting pain through my heel and ankle, that's where that tendon runs. Now, along with that, there's some posterior calcaneal encephalopathy, which is basically where your Achilles tendon attaches at your heel, where the bone and the tendon is attached, having some pain and some issues in there. So I went to podiatry. They got me in the very next week, which is fantastic. And the conversation stemmed about, like, what do you want to do? And my goal was to get back on the Appalachian Trail this year. I said I have about a month before my window starts closing to a point where I can't do it. And so he said, okay, what I want to do is I want to give you prednisone. So we did prednisone for 7 days to try to get the inflammation down. Rest, ice, elevation. And then, like, with the icing, we also added heat. So I was doing every day a series of about 105-degree water for 60 to 90 seconds, and then directly into an ice bath for 45 seconds, then going back and forth in order to get blood flow to try to get the inflammation down. After a week of that, after the 7 days of the prednisone, and then also he told me to change my shoes. So I'm in now, he recommended a Hoka. So I started with I found Hoka Challenger 7s, which is kind of like a cross between a trail runner and just a standard running shoe with a lot of support, but it also has a rocker. And then I got a pair of Speedgoat 5s. And because my toe does not bend normally, what was happening is, as I was walking, instead of my toe bending, I was rolling my feet. So the rolling of the feet was causing a lot of torque on those tendons, which kind of set off the tendinopathy. Tendinitis, yeah, that's the word. So by getting a Hoka, which has a roller or a rocker inside, instead of my foot doing this to compensate, the whole shoe actually helps you go through that motion of lift. It also has, instead of a 0 drop, it's about a 5 millimeter drop on the insole. And then the Challenger 6s, they're a little bit sturdier than the Speed Goats, but they have a little bit more support in the heel. So anyway, those are the shoes that I am currently wearing, and the doc has me wearing them inside the house. Basically, if I'm out of bed or not resting, if I'm up walking around, I'm wearing those shoes with some insoles. I am waiting on orthotics, so they order those as well, so I'm going to get custom orthotics to help my body kind of get into a groove, I guess. I don't know how to say it, but basically I need the custom orthotics because I'm not walking properly right now. So I was doing those things with the goal of, I want to get back on the trail in 2023, possibly doing a flip-flop. So planning wise, if I could get out before the end of April, get back on the trail, I could flip-flop and still be done probably by the end of September. But after doing those things for over a week, the medication, the stretches, wearing the different shoes, doing the heating, icing, I thought I was having some pain relief. So I spent a couple hours on my feet 2 days ago. After about an hour and a half, that shooting pain through those tendons was happening again. And so I had a quick conversation with my doc. I'll get the MRI results next week, but I had an MRI as well. But I have tendonitis. Everything's pointing to that tendon that runs all the way up, but also where the Achilles tendon attaches on the back of the heel, there's some insopathy, I believe is what it's called. So where the tendons attaches to the bone, there are some issues in there as well. And he said, you know, after the medication, after the icing, and with the pain that you're telling me you're experiencing, you can't go back on the trail this year. If you do go back on the trail, you'll be coming home soon, or you're going to cause some more damage. And that's not what I was looking for as an answer, but it's honest. So talked with Susanna, my wife, and we decided that I am not going to go back on the Appalachian Trail this year, and set a goal of 2024. So it's March 29th today. Goal to go back out in February 2024. So I have 11 months to, number one, get this under control and build a plan for how do I make it so this doesn't reoccur. How do I change my lifestyle, my training, etc., so that I protect my feet and I'm able to walk. So I go back to the podiatrist next week. We're gonna kind of go through a plan. We'll go over the MRI results. How do I set myself up for success for next year? You know, obviously exercise, getting the right physical therapy so I know what I'm doing, so I'm not damaging myself, but so I strengthen the areas around my ankles, my Achilles tendons, so that I'm able to go 2,198 point whatever miles it's going to be next year successfully, because I don't want to come back off the trail after 115 miles. It was very, very hard. It was a hard pill to swallow. But anyway, we're going to put that plan together. We'll figure this out because my heart wants to be out on the trail. This is not something I went into lightly. It's something that I've wanted to do since I was a kid. So I just got to figure out how do we make it happen. But I want to say thank you to all of those that have been watching and supporting me. There's some fantastic folks in this community, and I really appreciate it. And I will give you an update when I have one, so probably next week or the week after. And then the goal with this channel now is really preparing for 2024. The gear that I've got, that I had this year, I'm pretty happy with. There might be some gear changes for next year because new gear comes out, and maybe there's something I like better, but I'll go through those things as well. So basically, Tracking Hopper is going to become a Appalachian Trail 2024 channel. And I hope you stick around because, yeah, I think we got this next year. We're going to find a way. So thank you for watching. And if you're not already, you should get tracking.